came tumbling down, remember, in September, in the rain.
So we've just driven out of Frome on a very wet day. Not very great weather for picking, is it, Mary? No. Walking underneath the very soggy boughs. Cherry plums. Yeah. Oh, is this them?
Yeah.
They're tiny.
You find them along country lanes. You find them in London, off Caledonian Road. We found some, yes.
Cherry plums. And what are you going to put with these? Any flavour?
They're very nice with lemon thyme. Last year I found some which were raspberry pink. And when you cut them open, they smell of coconuts. Amazing colour.
Oh, they're very beautiful.
It's so beautiful, isn't it? I love tasting the fruit when I'm out. And that's when you get the ideas.
Of what flavours will go
yes.
with it. But the nice thing about picking in the rain is you do get that sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not completely quiet.
Yeah.
Back at Mary's house, we start to turn the cherry plums into jam in her tiny kitchen. Now, traditionalists would say you have to use equal quantities of sugar and fruit, but more and more people are using slightly less sugar.
So that's the amount of fruit we've got.
That's interesting. 680 of plums, 665 of apple, Katie apples, and 400 grams of sugar. That's low. And have you macerated the plums and the apple together?
Yes.
With lemon?
Yes. And vanilla and...
Oh, look, sorry, I'm having a look. I'm looking at this before I should. Look at the colour. It's so rosy, my God. And the jam's just beginning to bubble on the back hob. It looks like a little tiny jam factory.
When people say to me, oh, this is jar of plum jam, and you think, I drove 200 miles.
Do you go that far?
Yeah. Yeah, Pershaw's 200 miles away. It's bonkers. It's a bit bonkers.
Is that the furthest?
Yes, I was so tempted to go to Scotland once, though, because...
I understand that.
Yeah. For those wild cranberry. I just thought, I've gone now. I've gone to the other side.
Jam sets at 104 degrees, but Mary doesn't use a thermometer to gauge when the jam's ready. She judges using the wrinkle test. So you're putting a plate in the fridge to chill, so that you'll be able to do the wrinkle test.
Yeah. Let's have a look out of there.
Oh, wow. It's there. That's it, Mary. So you push your finger through and you can just see it creasing, but it doesn't... At the same time, it's not sitting and staying in the wrinkle very firmly. So that would be the right... Exactly the right point for me. That's the incredible thing. If you do this right, you get a jam that is more tasting of the fruit than the fruit itself ever does. That's a lovely jam.
That September in the rain.
Meanwhile, back at my jamming party, there are unfamiliar smells in the air.
We've cut the melon rind into 1 centimeter squares. So this is supposed to, this steeps in the fridge overnight, and this encourages pectins coming out. So I'm going to do this, and then I've got another one that I've made earlier in the fridge. I will admit, I do not have a preserving pan.
You don't need to have a preserving pan.
It looks so pretty.
I make jam in this quite often, just a heavy bottom pan, small batches.
Yeah.
You don't always have that. That's what puts people off, I think, believing they have to do a whole 30 jars of something.
Do you guys know about, foam, the scum that you collect of the jam? Yeah, like this.
Yes, that's the one for the one
So that used to be my childhood treat. When your jam bubbles, you just get a foam on top and you skim it. Can we please add something to my recipe? Because it's quite simple. It's literally just watermelon. And then I love meeting people and getting different influences.
What do you think would be good? Do you think cardamom?
I think cardamom would.
Yeah? Should we do it?
I'll get some.
Yeah? What about you, Diana? What do you think?
I love cardamom. You're completely free to just decide to use spices or a bit of flour, water or whatever at the end. It's not going to make any difference to the actual process of making the jam. If you've made a few jars of jam and you know how to get a set by doing that little wrinkle test, and you know how to pot it in sterilised jars, that is it. You know how to make jam. Then after that, basically, the world is your oyster in terms of flavours.
Go with your instincts.
I'm dying to taste this.
To taste it now, you'll know what I mean.
That already is lovely.
Isn't that interesting?
It's like a very kind of it's like after someone has mown the grass outside on a
it's
summery
good, yeah.
summery day.
Yeah.
It's that, isn't it? That is going to be great. Actually. The thing that's at the heart of jam, of course, is fruit. And some people love particular fruit so much that they want to be able to taste it all year round. Jam is the way to capture that fruit flavour and keep it. For food writer and gardener Mark Giacono, that fruit is mulberries. And we found a huge mulberry tree with him in the middle of Exeter. I'm under a mulberry tree in a Macintosh in what should be the summer, and I must have seen mulberry trees before and not realised that they were mulberry trees because it looks like a familiar shape.
Yeah. There's plenty around, and I think people don't realise this.
Because James the First,
Yep.
he had a big planting plan, didn't he?
He had a big planting plan. He got all excited and wanted to produce lots of silk in this country, so he got lots of mulberries in. He asked people to plant 10,000 of them. He was paying them a certain amount, and they got planted very quickly, but lots of them weren't right for this country.
The worms like the white
They
mulberries.
like the white mulberries, ideally, yeah.
I think there is a website where you can, which helps you find mulberry trees
There is.
all over the UK.
Yeah. If you put something in, mulberry tree locations,
Yeah.
you'll find 10 in Bristol, loads and loads in London, a huge amount in London.
Really?
Yeah.
And you particularly love them.
I love them. About 15 years ago, I was at a friend's house, and it was this time of year, and she said, do you want some mulberries for pudding? I was like, I've never had mulberries. That was the little light bulb that went, I've got to start growing stuff.
So this is why you started your farm.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we got there, and we got a piece of land that became kind of Otter Farm, I remember sat in the bath and my wife was kind of going, what are we doing with all this land and this mental mortgage, Diacono, and I had a list in the bath, and it was mulberries.
Well, it's a massive. You could live under here.
You could live under it.
You could set up a yurt. You could just wait for them to drop outside. I have never tasted a mulberry before.
Honestly.
I didn't. Do you know what? I didn't even think that they existed anymore.
yeah.
So I'm completely out of it.
Well, they're never in the shops because they're so delicate. They virtually fall apart from the sort of pressure of their own juice and loveliness.
Okay, get me one.
I've got to get you. You've got to get them. The darker, the better. I usually come with my daughter, and she sits on my shoulders.
Oh, and she goes right up there to get them.
Yeah, no. Let me get a darker one.
That looks good to me.
Yeah. Wait, honestly.
Okay, fine.
Absolutely dark as dark can be.
You know that in Germany, apparently, they think these are quite evil.
Do they?
Yes, and they say that with the roots of a mulberry tree, the devil darkens his boots.
That's the one.
Okay.
That's the one.
The first mulberry.
First mulberry.
Gosh, it is, and they're
And they're-
very plump. The
Aren't
little,
they?
yes. Oh. God, they're luscious.
Yeah, aren't they?